My name is Rose DeRoya, and I lost my son on May 20th of 2016 to an opiate overdose. My son was a great person and a heart bigger than most people knew. Tommy was the oldest of 3 children. He loved his brother and sister. He loved family more than anything. And possibly, you know, that was part of, he never wanted to disappoint anyone, especially his younger brother and his sister. And he hated that he couldn't control it. He started struggling probably in high school, maybe with the drinking. He struggled in school. He went to Walsh and was very successful in sports, which was great. But there was always pressure for academics, and he had trouble in school. He also had no fears of anything. Then he went to college. He went to Kent State, and I know that there's a lot of if you have that already a little bit, you know, you have that addictive personality. They say that going to college is usually quite a battle because it is everywhere at every university. And so I think Tommy was able to keep it under control. He began doing MMA, and he won his belt, and he was almost like a superstar, and I think the partying then got even more out of hand. When he realized it was out of hand, there is such stigma that Tommy, I think, didn't know how to come and ask for help because everyone says it's a choice. And in reality, it may begin as a choice, and I think so many kids think, well, okay, I can just do this, it's my friends, there's peer pressure. We're all searching for a happiness or to fill ourselves up or to deaden some pain, but life is painful and escaping is not the answer. But as his journey continued, you know, with opiates, you could use them for maybe just a couple weeks and you develop receptors and you're addicted. And the withdrawal, the longer you use, the higher doses you use, even if it's an intermittent struggle, your withdrawals are horrendous. And even Tommy, through all of this, had been in rehabs, had, you know, lots of different ways to help him and treatment that once we knew he had a problem. He could always get through the physical detox, which is quite a feat in itself if you've ever watched someone. But it was the emotional detox which kicks in about 21 days into your sobriety. And at that point, your brain gets very agitated and you can't think straight and you can't control yourself. And, you know, so many times, and I now know, you know, but back then people would say, well, Rosie, he has to want it. And these were experts sometimes and friends, and I prayed so hard but I knew that he wanted it because there were many times he would cry to me and say, I wish I wasn't like this, Mom. So the bottom line is, yeah, he wanted it, but if my son had epilepsy, I wouldn't have sent him on the road and said, you have to want this. Just tell yourself you're not going to have a seizure. I would have supported him. I would have gotten him medical intervention. We would have gotten him on medication because clearly he couldn't control that. And I feel the same with addiction, that they can't control it. It gets to the point where they are victims. Unfortunately, I think what happens is it eases into Xanax and then opiates, and then unfortunately, opiates are so expensive. What happens is the drug dealers will say, well, here, I'll give you heroin for free. And then once that starts, unfortunately, the heroin is not, there's no quality assurance, and most of the time, I'm sure you've read stories where they've cut it with fentanyl or even the animal tranquilizer that is 10 times or 100 times stronger than the fentanyl. And unfortunately, one time, and then, you know, it could be, you know, an overdose. Long-term recovery was an uphill battle because he would constantly say, I can do this, Mom. I got this, Mom. Don't worry. And how I didn't want to worry, but how he didn't even realize how much his brain had changed. Tommy had said to me one time, Mom, I was in 8th grade and I sat there and I heard the talks and I thought to myself, I'm not stupid. I will never do that. You're not really living in reality. He would become a different person. It wasn't my son, it was the addiction. And so at times he lived at a sober living house where there's there's a group of young men that live together that try and help each other. But as far as his siblings, he loved them with all that he was. And at one point he said to me, Mom, as horrendous as this journey has been, and I know I've put everybody through, hell, if God allowed this to happen to me so that it would protect my younger brother, then it was worth it. And to me, that always stuck in my mind. And I thought, as much as he suffered, he still thought of other people. I found with dealing with so many of these young men that they have hearts bigger than who they are. What I used to tell Tommy, because he would be so frustrated, he'd say, Mom, I wish I could rewind my life 6 years before this took hold of me. And I'd say, Tommy, I don't know why it happened, and I won't know. I guess we'll never know until I face my Creator. But I know that everyone's life is created for a reason, and no matter what our journeys are or our struggles are, they change everyone and they change people. And as much as I miss my son, although I know he's at peace now, it has changed me. I feel deeper, I love deeper, I have much more compassion, and I believe that I might not be able to change the world, but maybe I can be a light. And if everyone was more compassionate, especially with this disease, and with young kids, if they were just more understanding, or just taking that opportunity to let someone know that they are important, no matter who they are. And maybe that little bit will help someone make a better choice. Because I believe that the addiction and the partying and all that is because we're all trying to fill ourselves up with something. And clearly we're created perfectly the way we are, And unfortunately, when people get involved with this, it is such a horrendous disease. And I pray that the world becomes more compassionate, more understanding. And maybe then people will start to get better. And the house is all broken down. It's like an old fraternity house. And he said, can you make welcome bags?
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I was
Tommy
like,
D.
well, that was his fighting emblem. When he was an MMA fighter, that was it. And then I put, you're worth it, never give up.
Oh my God.
So he said, can you make a welcome bag? And I thought, I'm not going to just get a plastic bag. So inside is a bottle of shampoo, razors, toothpaste, a toothbrush. But always inside is a card. And it's written from me, and it's signed Rosie and Tommy with a heart, that you're worth it and never give up.